Hi everyone! Today I'm going to show you how to easily install and use TypeScript in Node.js. First, let's open up a terminal and we're going to initialize our project. So we're going to go npm init y. Next, we're going to create our server.js file. Server.js. Now we're going to install the modules that we're going to be using, and in this case it's going to be Express and TypeScript. Npm install Express and TypeScript. Now we're going to initialize TypeScript to get the tsconfig.json file. tsc init. There we go. Now we're going to create our simple Express server. Now we're going to run the server and test if it's working. There we go. Now we're going to change our server to a TypeScript file. Once we do that, if we try running the server again, we're going to get an error. And that's because your web browser does not understand TypeScript, and neither does Node. It's got to be compiled first to JavaScript. Now, if we don't want to go through the hassle of defining a type for the request and the response object, because usually they're predefined, we can go ahead and go into the tsconfig.json file and change the type checking from true to false. And now that's going to go away, so it will stop bothering us. And this warning here basically tells us what to do. So we got to install the types at node. So we're going to go ahead and copy this command that it gives us and install the types, and that's going to make this warning go away. So now we're going to compile our TypeScript file in order to view it in the browser. So far, this is basically it. You just installed TypeScript. You got TypeScript working with Node.js, and now onto the compilation part. Simply just enter tsc, and that's going to spit out a server.js file. Now if we go npx nodemon server.js, our server is still working. And to confirm that it's actually working with TypeScript, we're going to change this to using TypeScript, recompile again, start the server again, and we can see that we're using TypeScript. But you notice that every time I wanted to start the server and reflect the latest changes that I made, I had to recompile. Now, this can get cumbersome, especially if you're working on a big project and you don't want to have to recompile every 2 seconds after making a change in order for you to see it reflect in the browser and to play around with it in dev. So there are two methods that we can use to auto-compile and to reflect changes in real time. Method one is using the tsc-watch argument. Let's split the terminal in two. And if I do tsc-watch and I run that, and then if I run npx nodemon on my server.js, what will end up happening here, I'm going to say using tsc-watch. And if I save that, you can see that it automatically recompiled. And then it spat out a new server.js file. And we can see our changes reflecting here. And because this server.js file changed, nodemon automatically restarted the server. So if we refresh our page here, we can see our changes taking effect. So this is the first method. The second method is using npx nodemon on the ts file itself. Now if I do npx nodemon server.ts, I'm going to get an error because Node does not understand TypeScript and neither does your browser. So it tells us to install a package here called ts-node. ts-node basically allows us to serve TypeScript and see the changes in real time. It compiles it on runtime and it shows us the result of that compilation in the browser, but it does not actually compile it automatically for our project. Let me demonstrate. So I'm gonna go ahead and install TS Node. And now if I do npx nodemon server.ts, it's gonna run the same way it did when we were using server.js. And we can see this change reflect when we say here, using TS Node. And if I refresh, we can see the changes reflect in the browser. But if we go to the server.js file here, it's still the same. So once we're done here, when we exit TS Node, we need to run tsc to recompile. So we got to run tsc to recompile our files for us to get the latest version. So ts-node should be used exclusively in development, and you got to make sure that you compile the files once you're done using TS Node. And that's basically it. You got TypeScript running and 3 methods of compiling TypeScript and using it in real time in your Node.js project. One last thing I want to mention is that when you are importing modules in your Node.js project, you're probably used to the common JS way of doing it, which is using the required keyword like here. But this does not always play very well with TypeScript. So it is recommended that you use the module type, which is the import and export keywords. If I create a models folder here, and I'm going to create a user class. So I'm going to call this user.ts. And this is going to define how I want my user to look like in my database. So if I do class user, constructor, and the user is going to have a username, and just for the sake of this example, we'll give him an age. And the username is going to be of type string, and the age is going to be of type string in the arguments. And also here, the username is going to be of type string, and the age is going to be of type string. Now, if we do module.exports and user, and we try to import that here, TypeScript's going to complain, we're going to get errors, and it's not going to like it. So best way to do this is using the export keyword, just like you do when you're developing in React, let's say. Same concept. And over here, we're going to do import user from models user. And we can test that here. I'm going to run this in TS Node. So nodemon server.ts. And over here, I'm going to create a new user. And the user is going to have a username of Jack123. And let's say an age of 999. And let's not forget the new keyword. There we go. Now it says here, number is not assignable to type string. And that's because I screwed up the age here, but string. But this is supposed to be a number. So now TypeScript is not complaining, and we can go ahead and console log this, and boom, there we go. And if I try to change this to a string, as you saw, it will complain because TypeScript is working and it is type checking all our stuff as we define them. If you like this video, please leave a like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments if there's anything else you'd like me to cover.